But I think there are calls for better personal protective equipment, and there are calls for better social distancing, I think has really had an impact on the rest of the economy.
I feel like labor law has become so important in the pandemic right now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, you've seen a number of walkouts over safety issues. You've seen a number of workers getting together and demanding better PPE or better distancing. And so I think that it definitely, those are the things that labor law was really made for.
So I guess first I want to talk about unionized workers. What role are you seeing the unions play in these disputes?
Well, here in Las Vegas, the unions have played a tremendous role. That's because our hospitality industry, our gambling industry is heavily unionized. And so the famous Las Vegas Strip has 60,000 union workers on it. And they have basically been going to the Gaming Commission here in Nevada and demanding that when the casinos reopen, that they have all these requirements for social distancing and for sanitation. And that, again, is what unions were built for.
Do you see any historical parallels here when you're talking about what labor law was made for?
Well, the labor law was born out of the Great Depression, and I don't want to call this a new Great Depression, but I certainly see, a lot of people wondering in terms of their job security, in terms of seniority protections, in terms of technological change. These are the things, again, that caused the mass general strikes in Minneapolis and San Francisco in 1934. And so I think, in this time, people start to see individually that they don't have as much power as they do collectively. And so the difference is, of course, is that we have 85 years of history. We have labor and management working together in many ways over those 85 years. We have unions adapting to technological change. And so all of those things put us in a very different position. But unfortunately, our labor law is, part of the 20th century, right? It is still in that 20th century mold of traditional picket lines and strikes. And I think looking ahead, particularly because everyone is online now, unions are going to be much more interested in the strategies they can use on the internet. And government agencies like the National Labor Relations Board have to be more responsive to those technological changes. And they haven't been over the last 25 years.
Have you noticed any situations, particularly during the pandemic, where some conditions negotiated by a union and sort of spilled over to benefit other workers who are not part of the union?
The place where that's happening the most, obviously, is healthcare, right? And again, healthcare unions have been very vocal about PPE, about, again, and they're, everyone can see why that makes sense, for them and why that's important to them. But I think there are calls for better personal protective equipment, and there are calls for, better social distancing, I think has really had an impact on the rest of the economy. If people feel that unions are able to protect themselves, protect their employees and their members better than non-union employees, it may be that more employees see the value, both the political value and also the economic value of joining unions. And so the problem, of course, is, interest in joining a union, as the law has shown us, is not enough when you're going up against kind of a barrage of employer resistance, right? And so a law that, privileges employer, decisions, privileges employer kind of speech at the expense of employee speech. And so what you have then is to really have to change those parts of the law that have gone back decades, even before the pandemic, that were making it very hard for workers to organize.